afternoon. I changed the title, in fact, but never mind. It's the last time. First, I'd like to thank the conference organizers for inviting me here. I must confess something. I'm a French ethnologist specializing in horses and Inner Asia in the broadest sense, from Sakha Yakutia to Turkmenistan. And every time I take part in an event or conference, I am presented as a specialist of Mongolia. And no matter how many times I repeat that I never set foot in Mongolia, but the mistake persists, as if an ethnologist who specializes in horses necessarily works in Mongolia. So thanks to you for inviting me. I have the opportunity to come to Mongolia for the first time. Still today I will speak about Kazakhs. When I first came to Kazakhstan in 1994 for my doctoral thesis, I was confronted to two contradictory views on Kazakh nomadism. On the one hand, some people said we Kazakhs are nomads. We founded the nomadic civilization. For us, livestock is everything. It's the meat that feeds us. On the other hand, other people said, since Sovietization, the Kazakhs have lost their culture. They have lost the basis of the national identity. They have lost their nomadic knowledge. I would like to shed light on the contradiction, the ambiguities and the ambivalence of pastoral nomadism among the Kazakhs. I would like to clear up a few misunderstandings on this subject, and I will show that in fact, neither of these two views corresponds to reality. So I will try to set out the definition of pastoral nomadism and to show the variety of the forms among its Kazakhs. I will trace the major changes in Kazakh nomadism since the 19th century and the debate upon sectorization between Russians and Kazakhs. I will show how from the 90s onwards, the authorities of independent Kazakhstan, in their quest for national identity, promoted the emblems of nomadism and the discrepancies between the still stylized vision of nomadism and the realities of today's mobile pastoralism in Kazakhstan. Central Asia, as you see on the map, is classically divided into two parts: the sedentary agricultural world of the oasis, which forms a central core in the center, and the nomadic world of pastoralism, essentially that's from the present from Turkmenistan to North Kazakhstan and North Kyrgyzstan. This division is schematic and partially inaccurate. Moreover, this dichotomy may be misleading because it ignores the diversity of forms of pastoral mobility. In Central Asia, the Kazakhs live in a semi-arid environment of steppes and deserts, favorable to nomadic pastoralism. Their national identity is all more linked with nomadism because, according to the most commonly admitted etymology, the ethnonym Kazakh is related to nomadism. This name is believed to derive from the verb kaz, which means to wander. You heard me? Yes? It's okay? Thank you. The Kazakhs are Turkic people first mentioned in the 15th century. From that time, they defined themselves as nomads, and they were identified as such. The first foreign travelers who ventured into the Central Asian state saw it as a hostile and dangerous environment. Later, in the beginning of the 19th century, the figure of the Kazakh nomad softened somewhat in Russian Western representations, going from caravan robbing raiders to uneducated, simple shepherds. Generally speaking, representation of the nomads of the steppe oscillates between barbarism and good-naturedness. Once condemned as a backward way of life, pastoral nomadism is now praised as a sustainable, ecological, and respectful good way of using nature. Between the 18th and the 19th century, the three Kazakhs tribal hordes, Jus, were integrated gradually into the Russian Empire. The Russian conquest was followed by the, as you see on the map, as an administrative division of the Kazakh nomadic areas. The Kazakh political elites, heads of lineages, be customary judge, or by rich livestock owners, were integrated into the Russian system of government, serving as steppe empire mediators. The Russian Empire did not initially set out to change the Kazakh way of life. In the Siberian Kyrgyz regulation of 1822, drawn up by Speransky, General Governor of Siberia, the Kazakhs were classified among the Kachere Inorodtsi, indigenous nomads. The natives of the empire, were classified into three categories: nomads, Kachere, sedentary people, and wandering people. That is to say, hunters and not really gatherers, but fishermen. So this classification was a little more subtle than a simple dichotomy between nomads and sedentary people. It implicitly established a hierarchy in the degree of civilization of the peoples concerned. Nomadizing and wandering in Inorodtsi were placed at another level of the evolution of societies than the sedentary ones. These ideas reflected the evolutionism that had dominated Western thought since the Enlightenment. These regulations aimed to soften the nomads' customs and to reduce their mobility. But in fact, they had less impact on daily life than the arrival of Russian settlers. This arrival was at first illegal and then encouraged by law. The aim of this colonization was to exploit the arable land of the steppes and not to settle its inhabitants. However, it deprived nomadic pastoralists of part of their grazing land or their access to grazing land. The widespread sedentarization of the Kazakhs finally took place between 1929 and 1934, after the Soviet Union first five plan imposed the collectivization of livestock. This caused a sharp fall in livestock numbers and a terrible famine. This disaster caused the death of more than a third of the Kazakh population and the emigration of many of them. Livestock was decimated by requisition and ill-managed forced collectivization, and this removed any reason for nomadism. No more livestock, no need to move. So sedentarization was in fact a side effect of collectivization rather than a primary objective. And from 1941, the partial reconstitution of the herds, combined with some pragmatism, led to a return to mobility, if not of the whole population, at least of livestock and shepherds. Not yet. And what were the views of the Kazakhs and the Russian on sedentarization at these different stages? On the Russian side, the positions were divided. On the one hand, the idea of the superiority of sedentary agriculture over nomadic pastoralism was universally held in the 19th and 20th century. Nomadic pastoralism was seen as an archaic way of life in which man, subject to the vagaries of nature, could neither accumulate wealth nor enjoy the benefits of civilization. On the other hand, many Russians thought that nomadic pastoralism was a mode of production better suited to the natural condition of the Kazakh state. There were conflicts within the colonial administration about that. An expedition carried out under the direction of Fyodor Sherbina collected an impressive mass of figures and of land used by nomads. However, the participants in this expedition held divergent positions, and the results of this survey could be used either to support or to criticize colonization. In fact, it was as nomads that pastoralists could be useful to the empire for the production of wool, of butter, of meat, and for supplying horses for the army. On the Kazakh side, the nomadic way of life was widely valued by the population. The Bai, rich livestock owners, were deeply attached to it. Individual wealth depended exclusively on your livestock, and the size of your herd determined the possibility and the necessity to nomadize. Everyone wanted to be a koshpeli, at the verb koshu, nomadize, and the poor Jatak, settled people, were despised. However, Kazakh intellectuals, often educated in Russian schools, also associated progress with a sedentary lifestyle. At the beginning of the 20th century, the main currents of the current Kazakh intelligentsia advocated sedentarization. It was seen as a condition for the progress of society and therefore necessary for the preservation of Kazakhs. Their opinions differed only on the request pace of sedentarization. And after, several Kazakh intellectuals were opposed to the collectivization, but they didn't question the idea of the superiority of sedentary civilization. So we see that Kazakh and Russian views on sedentarization were both ambiguous. In the USSR, the discourse on nomadism remained within the paradigm of evolutionism. From the 1930s to the 50s, the aim was no longer to show that pastoral nomadism was a primitive way of life, but a feudal one. The Soviet historian emphasized the monopolization of the best pastures by the Bai, considered to be the equivalent of feudal lords, the exploitation of the poor, who were employed to look after the herds of the richest. There were discussions about the feudal basis of Kazakh society, either private ownership of land or private ownership of livestock. But whatever the case, the model remained one of stadial and linear evolution. Nomadic or mobile pastoralism can be defined as a way of life based on the extensive husbandry of herds of herbivores. Extensivity corresponds to a low animal density per unit area. Consequently, livestock is fed mainly through grazing, and pastoralism leads to nomadism when pastoral populations follow herds' movements according to a seasonal cycle of pasture rotation that optimizes the use of resources and the comfort of the livestock. Nomadic pastoralism works on the following principle. At any time during the year, the livestock has to be in the most favorable place. So herds must be moved from one pasture to another. In Kazakhs, these are as you see on the screen, the Krstau in winter, Kökteu in spring, Jalo in summer, and Kuzeu in autumn. Regular movements exploit the heterogeneity of natural resources and in fact stabilize them through movement. At the same time, movement spares them the worst climatic excesses. By moving south in the cold season or north towards the mountain in the hot or dry season, nomads manage to soften the climate. In Central Asia, pastoralism is multi-species with 5 species of small and large livestock: sheep, cattle, goats, horses, and camels. Livestock provide the basis of subsistence for pastoralists thanks to their milk, their meat, their wool, their skin, dung used as fuel, and last but not least, their labor. Today, livestock still provide an essential supplement for many rural people. Pastoralism in Kazakhstan has been doomed to extinction on several occasions over the last century. The evolution of livestock has been marked by 2 major crises in the 30s and also during the decollectivization in the 90s. Representations of nomadic pastoralism in Central Asia are paradoxical in that this system is believed to be both unchanging and under constant threat. The pastoral activities of caring for the herds are generally seen as having always existed and remained unchanged. I devoted a paper about timeless figure of the state nomad. This atemporality is one of the stereotypes of pastoral nomadism, along with other clichés: nomadism as predation or as wandering. Yet nomadism is not wandering in an open, uniform space. It is a historical phenomenon. Perhaps it is precisely because we think that we hardly believe that nomads are capable of change that we always see them as threatened with extinction. The definition of nomadism are numerous and sometimes contradictory, using several criteria linked not only to mobility but also to the activities, whether there is or not agriculture, or the type of houses, whether permanent or not. For the sake of clarity, I have chosen residential mobility as the sole criterion for nomadism. According to me, the criteria for nomadism should not be confused with its symptoms. The essential criterion for nomadism is residential mobility. One of its symptoms can be the use of mobile homes such as yurts, but you can nomadize and live in permanent houses for part of the year, as it was the case for most Central Asian population at the beginning of the 20th century. You can also live in mobile home and be sedentary, as here in the yurt district